campus is beautiful.
The people here are some of the most friendliest people I've ever met. It seems like everybody's so friendly and everybody's new here.
Who knew becoming a physician could be so enjoyable, so picturesque, or so rewarding? Well, for thousands of physicians around the world who proudly call St. George's University their alma mater, it's a well-known fact. Joining me now is St. George's University President, Dr. G. Richard Olds. I'm so excited to have you here today.
It's great to be here.
Dr. Olds, St. George's is an international medical school based in Grenada. Beautiful place. Tell us more about your history and your curriculum.
Well, the school was started in 1976 by Chancellor Modica, who himself didn't get into a med school in the United States and ended up going to med school in Spain in Spanish, and only completed the first year and ended up going to law school. But he always felt that there was a need for a medical school that taught in English that would help prepare students for careers throughout the world, including the United States, and he started St. George over 40 years ago.
And let's talk about international medicine and the role St. George's plays in that.
Well, there's a few things that we should always think of internationally. AIDS and certainly most recently Ebola points out that there is no health problem in this world that isn't all our health problems. So health problems in general are international. The other thing to remember is that we're very proud in this country of the fact that we have very high tech and very high quality medicine. But statistically speaking, we don't do so well. We're very expensive, and compared to many industrialized countries, we don't get as good in outcomes. The combination of learning the best of what we do in the United States and learning many lessons about what other countries in the world do is probably the best education for physicians for the future.
And how does St. George's University really differ from other universities?
Well, I would think the most important thing about St. George is our commitment to student success. Everyone talks about student success, but some schools have more of the old law school approach. They take 100 students and they expect a third of them to flunk out, and then they teach the rest.
And they're happy with that.
Every student that we pick, we're committed to them ultimately not only completing their medical education, but getting a residency to complete their training. We even start in the front end. If we have a student that we think would make a great doctor, but we're not sure they're ready for med school, we'll actually accept them in our undergraduate university and guarantee them a spot in the med school if they maintain the right grade point.
That's so great.
And then in med school per se, we spend a lot of time and energy helping each and every student get through the curriculum. It's hard to become a doctor, and students learn in different ways. But we spend a lot of time and energy making sure that every student that we accept makes it through. And then at the end, we actually do quite well in getting our doctors into residency training program. Over 90% of our grads get in first attempt into an ACGME accredited program. But the small number that don't make it through, we actually work with them for the next year or two, free of charge, to make sure that they ultimately become residents. Did you just say
free of charge?
Yes, free of charge.
Nobody does that. Nobody
does that, but St. George's does that.
How are these SGU doctors making a difference?
Well, first of all, I think many people don't realize how big the numbers are. 1% of all the doctors practice in the United States are St. George graduates. So we represent a very significant part of the manpower in our own country. And because we teach not only in the United States, but we teach in England, and we have teaching activities throughout the world, we have both students from about 140 different countries, and we place students as practicing physicians all across the world.
That is just incredible. And now let's take a look at what one SGU medical student has accomplished.
My name is Brian Boyarsky, and I'm a third-year medical student at St. George's University. I helped develop and write the HOPE Act, the HIV Organ Policy Equity Act. Transplanting organs from HIV-positive donors into HIV-positive recipients has the potential to impact thousands of people each year. The HOPE Act was signed by President Obama in November of 2013. I'm incredibly proud to have been part of the process.
Wow, Dr. Olds, it sounds like Brian's achievements really represent those of so many St. George students and graduates. Are people surprised at the quality of education they're getting in Grenada?
Well, I don't think they are if they've had exposure to our graduates before. I spent most of my professional career in the United States in US-based medical schools, and I have taught many St. George graduates, and so I knew they were of very high quality. But because we have a campus in Grenada for the first 2 years, and then we train our students in the United States and England for their last 2 years, if you get contact with our students, you know our students. But if you don't, you may assume that all international students are the same, and I certainly don't think that's true.
Okay, I just want to visit Grenada and see the school there. I don't really care about the U.S. and England. I'm just kidding. What an amazing place. You're doing amazing work. Thank you so much. And where can our viewers find out more information?
Well, probably the best place is to go online. We have our own sgu.edu website, and you can find out about applying for medical school. And remember, we're more than just a medical school. We have a veterinary school, a College of Arts and Sciences, and a graduate school that gives, among other things, a Master's of Business Administration and a Master of Public Health.
Well, that's excellent, Doctor. Thank you so much for being here today. It was such a pleasure to hear about St. George's. Wonderful. And remember, you can always log on to thebalancingact.com for more information. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter.